Hi guys, it's Chris at the Ultimate Recycler. This is a 1970s era retro two-seater lounge. It's very faded. It's been in my backyard for a few months. It came out of an old house we cleaned out. And we're going to just deal with this in the best way possible as far as recycling goes. Now, most people would throw it straight on the trailer, take it to the tip. Our local tip here would charge me $25 for this, to dump it off, and I'm not sure what they do with it from there. A lot of people, if they live on a bit of a property, they might have their own dump and just basically throw it into landfill. 30, 40, 50 years ago, most people with a bit of land would have had a bonfire and burnt it, but that's not very environmentally friendly. There's going to be a lot of toxic foam and stuff. So what I'm going to do is pull it apart. It'll save me a $25 tip fee anyway, and we'll see what we can use or at least dispose of properly, and what we have left that'll have to go into the rubbish bin. Now this part here was along the base. It was a sort of a, looks like it's cotton, so I reckon my worms will be able to handle that. As for the rest of the fabric, well, not sure. The top layer here is probably cotton. It's broken down a bit in the sun, so we'll certainly try that in the worms as well. The next layer of padding looks like it's a polyester synthetic type material, so I don't think we're going to be able to get rid of that. The strapping underneath is an elastic, so that's bound to be synthetic, so there's going to be a bit of rubbish, unfortunately. The actual upholstery material, as you can see, it's very faded. I don't know what it's made out of. I didn't see a tag anywhere. If we get in there and tear it a bit, it might be some sort of wool. Might be, you can see the original colour. It might be a wool, it might be synthetic. We'll again try that on the worms. The bulk of the rubbish is going to be this padding foam, which we really can't do anything with. Unfortunately, that has to go to landfill. But anyway, we'll deconstruct it, and we'll see what materials we can get to either use or have another use for, such as like the firewood. The frame should be firewood, or at least maybe there's some timber that we can actually use. And we'll test all the materials that we can on the worms. We'll see what we have once we get it apart. Okay, I've torn some of the fabric off. You can see the original colour of the fabric there, and you can see the timber frame. It looks like a hardwood frame, so there's quite a bit of timber in it. Just at the back here where I tore a bit, I did find a tag that actually says it's 80% fibran. Never heard of it. 20% cotton. So the worms will eat the cotton, but I don't know what the other stuff is. I might have to Google that. I assume it's an artificial synthetic type material. So we'll Google that, but I will try a sample with the worms anyway. And there was some of this white, I don't know what you'd call it. It's sort of a felt type material. It's quite thick, and it was over the top of the foam padding. This stuff. So unfortunately I don't think we can do anything with this. It's pretty grubby and dirty, and it's been wet numerous times. If it comes out really clean, I have used it for packaging before when I sell things on eBay. If I'm selling something like a large chainsaw or something and it needs some good robust packing, I'll use that. But this white stuff, I think I'll try a little sample in the worm farm, but I think I will actually keep this and use it for packing. It'd be great for wrapping up things and give a bit of protection, particularly when I sell old tools and things that don't need to be spotlessly clean, but they need to be protected from poking through the corners of the box. This feels quite strong. Alright, so I'll start taking the frame apart, and we'll have piles of all our materials, and we'll go through them when I've finished. And here's the lineup after the couch has been demolished. It didn't take very long to do. It was quite a quick job actually, although possibly would have been better not leaving it around in my yard for 3 to 4 months, because being wet, a lot of the screws had rusted and didn't unscrew, and I just kind of knocked the timber frame apart with a hammer. The beauty about deconstructing something, when you don't have to put it back together, you can be a bit rougher and it doesn't matter. Right, let's go along the line. Now the first one, we've already talked about this. That was just a sheet under the base. I'm pretty sure that's cotton. I'm pretty sure the worms will eat it. This next one we've talked about, I'm going to keep it for packaging as I suggested, but I'll cut a square out of it and see if the worms will eat it. A lot of the bulk, or certainly the weight of this lounge or sofa, was the timber, and it's all hardwood, and I'm going to use this in my furnace where I'm doing some melting aluminium projects and that sort of stuff. So I'll run it across my buzzsaw, chop it up into, you know, foot lengths or so it's nice in my furnace, and it's basically a good free fuel supply for me. I'll have to be careful with all the staples if I'm running it on my saw, but that'll be very handy. It gives me a good wood supply, so no wastage there, and that will be useful. These elastic straps, definitely going to be a synthetic material, so that little pile will have to go in the bin. This was the kind of padding sheet where the cushions went. A few different materials. I think that one's cotton. We'll try some of that. The padding inside, don't know what that is, so we'll try a square of that as well. This reinforcing type webbing has a definite plastic feel, so I'll have to separate that. Now, all the upholstery material, I did a bit of checking, and fibran or fibran, I think it was, is actually a type of, it's a rayon. And when I googled rayon, it's classed as a semi-synthetic material. It's actually made from wood pulp, or cellulose material, so it is natural. So we'll try some of that in with the worms as well, but there's a good chance that they're going to eat all that. So that's great. And the bulk of the object was this foam padding, which I've talked about. If I had have knocked this apart before it was in the weather, that might still have been quite clean, and I could have used it for packaging larger workshop tools and things that I sell on eBay. The only problem with that is, yes, it gives it another use, but there's 99% chance that the person that gets it at the other end when they unpack their box is going to throw it in the landfill anyway. So unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. Manufacturers really need to come up with something that's good padding material, but not, you know, not toxic to burn, or perhaps biodegradable in some way. But you know what I'll do is I'll probably just chop that into quarters and put a bit in my rubbish bin each week. So that's the bulk of the rubbish. We'll be testing these other things. The firewood will be very handy, and this will be handy packing for me. So not only have I saved my $25 and time to lug it out to our local tip, I'm going to get some products to use. Sometimes I have deconstructed mattress bases, and some of the timber I've got out of those has been very handy. And here's a little project I did with some slats out of a mattress base. So it's well worth not taking things apart perhaps before they've been in the weather too long, because there can be some good materials in them. Alright, we'll get a sample ready of each of the materials now for testing on my worms. So we'll use this little half tank as a testing spot for these materials from the couch. I've had a few tests going in here, and I've also just been throwing a bit of excess food scraps in here. So there's lots of worms, very healthy population. So we'll just take these mats off for the moment, and we'll just level this around a bit. I had a bread test in here and they loved the bread, so if you want to have a look at that one, I'll put the link up the top now, and we'll just scrape the other stuff around, get the big bulky stuff out of the road. There's an apple here. I bet you they're right under this apple. Oh, look at that. That's amazing. They just love getting into things like that. So I've did a test on apples once too, and I'll put the link up for that one. So sorry to disturb all you little guys. We've got to get the test bed ready. Alright, there's the remains of some grass clippings. Once it's been hot composted, grass clippings are excellent for the food, for the worms as well. Excellent food. Okay, that should do. So we'll put all these samples in. I decided to put a bit of everything. I know they're not going to eat that foam, but what the hell, let's include it in the test. Same with this bit of elastic. There's a piece of cotton from the base. There's a piece of that padding material. I'm not sure what that's made of. This plastic, definite plastic style webbing. I'm sure they won't eat that. Another piece, so I think that's cotton again. That was from the top padding. And this white sort of cotton, it's sort of a, it looks like a cotton wool, but it actually feels a little synthetic. So as I said, I'm going to use that for packing, so I'm not worried if they don't eat that or not. And a sample of the upholstery fabric. So there we go. That's all laid out. I'll put the mats back down. I'm probably going to give it a couple of weeks so that we're sure what they're going to get into. I might even give it a bit longer. And then we can conclude what is left of this couch and what we can process. I've given my little worm friends about 5 weeks to deal with this mattress, these mattress products. And the reason I've given them so long is because the weather's got quite cold. We're in the depths of winter now, and we've had some frosts, and the worm activity has slowed up. You can see weeds are growing quite profusely on my carpet mats, but even the growth of them has slowed up because it's got rather chilly. So anyway, let's take the mats off and see what the worms are up to. Now I did pick this up a couple of days ago, and I found the roots of the weeds were growing into my test samples, and I still have caught them a little bit. So I'll have to try and pick these off a bit so we can see what's going on. Alright, I might just put the camera down while I take the mats off and then we'll film again. Okay, there's our samples. Now there was worms, quite a lot of worms around here. They're all disappearing quickly now because they don't like the light. But they've been working away even though it's been cold. There's one resting on the top of that padding material. So let's go through them after 5 weeks. Well, clearly nothing's happened with the foam, and I didn't expect it at all. There's some worms underneath it, but yes, they're not going to eat that. Same with this elastic. There's no evidence of any worm activity as far as eating that material. There's certainly worms there. Now this was the bottom sheet, and whilst they haven't really eaten it, there are some holes forming. So maybe they have eaten it a bit. They haven't really got into it like I've seen them eat cotton before, but it does look like that's going to disappear. We'll leave this test a bit longer, but there wasn't a lot of that material anyway, so that's no drama. This padding doesn't look like there's been anything happening there, so that's has to be a synthetic material. And this plastic type webbing, well, I was quite confident they weren't going to eat that. All that's doing is getting tangled up in the roots of plants. This other piece I think was cotton, and there's certainly holes appearing in that. So I think that one will disappear as well. Not particularly quickly, but it might be just because of the cold weather. This one that I was going to use for packing anyway, they're clearly not eating that, so that isn't a cotton, like a cotton wool. Must be some synthetic, so that will have to be rubbish, although as I said I've actually been using it for packing, so that's cool. Now the last of the fabric and the bulk of it was this rayon type, or fibran or whatever you call it, type material. And there's lots of worms through it, and there's lots of holes happening in it. So it does look like they're going to eat it. Yes, it's coming apart. I can't even pick it up, it's underneath worm castings. So look at that, it's breaking down. Now, I think the tag did say it was 20% cotton and 80% of this fibran or rayon, but look, there's plenty of worms in there. So I'll have to leave this longer to see if they do eat it all. They might be just eating the cotton and leaving the other strands. But that's fairly promising. It looks like they're going to at least eat some of it. So anyway, we'll leave this test for quite a while. It doesn't really matter. The test isn't a speed test. It's just to see what will be consumed and what will rot down nicely in the garden. So eventually it'll warm up again and the worms will get back into full productivity. But at this stage, it's good to check in. We'll give them probably a month or two and see what's going on. So it's been about 7 weeks since we last looked at the materials from this couch. I need to wind this video up, so we'll have a peek now and see what's going on. Now, I did turn the mats over because the grass that was growing on top was sending a lot of roots down underneath and causing some grief, so I just turned them over, and obviously the grass has died off a lot. So we'll pull these mats off. The weather's finally started to warm up here, which has been good. Feels like spring today. We've had a pretty cold, wet winter, as I've mentioned, I think, a few times, which has been nice. That's what winter's supposed to be. Alright, so we've still got worms going on here. Let's have a closer look. And we'll pull out the ones that clearly aren't going to be eaten. So this foam can go out. That'll have to go in the bin. Same with this elastic. There's been plenty of worm activity, but they're not going to eat that. It's all synthetic. This fibrous padding sheet clearly is synthetic as well. There's been nothing going on with that, so that can go. This webbing is certainly a type of plastic. Yep, so there's no degradation of that at all. And likewise this padding. So they certainly can't be put through the worm farm or the compost bin. Now what's left? Over this side here, and I can't actually see any left. Oh, there's some little remnants. Look at that. So that was the cotton sheet. That was the base cotton sheet. The base covering. So that's certainly gone. No issues there. And the other one was here. And that's totally gone. Can't even find a piece of that one. And that was the cotton sort of fabric that was over the padding that went under the cushions. So both of those clearly were cotton, and they're totally vanished, so that's good. Now the most interesting part of this experiment was the upholstery fabric itself, and we're left with these stringy bits. Now I'll call it fibran. I wasn't sure how to pronounce it, but we'll go with that. And the tag said it was 80% fibran, 20% cotton. Well, the cotton we know gets eaten, and that's all gone. I'm not sure if this is being eaten as well. There's certainly not much left. In fact, it looks like, I think that's some of it, I'm not too sure. So, the worms are certainly going to reduce the quantity of this. I don't know if they'll eat this, although the rayon or the fibran rayon type material was classed, I think if I remember back to the start of this video, it's classed as a semi-synthetic, and it did come from a natural material, and it may be like hair, which will break down, but it just takes a long time. So probably that needs to have a much longer term experiment. I do need this bed for something, so I'm not going to keep this experiment going. But I would say we can certainly get rid of a big portion of this upholstery fabric, if not all of it eventually. So that's good. It doesn't need to go to landfill. Anyway, that's completes the experiment. We will take that fibrous stuff out of here for now in case it tangles around something. But I'm happy with that. We've reduced some of the quantity that's going to landfill, and all the firewood was gone. Somewhere over here I have the remainder of the samples, just waiting to see what had happened with them. So I know now that I can put the cotton pieces, I think they're at the bottom, they can certainly go in the worm farm. I might do a longer term test on this and just see if it all does disappear. But you know, there's certainly going to be some rubbish. Most of that other white cotton wool type stuff I actually have used as packing. It was quite handy to wrap up some things. So look, it's always worth experimenting on these things. I've saved myself a trip to the tip with it, and the $25 odd. I've got some firewood out of it, which I've actually used. It's been handy. It burnt really well actually. And we only have a relatively small amount of stuff to get rid of. Most of it was this foam stuff. And next time I get a lounge or a sofa that I have to knock apart, if I consider it not saleable, I won't let it get wet, and I'll actually use some of this for packing as well. Alrighty, thanks for watching. If there's anything else you'd like me to do an experiment on that's a hassle to get rid of, I've done mattresses before, shoot me a message, put a comment below, and we'll have a go at it. Okay, catch you in the next video.